Good afternoon, this is Peter Towers from ESS BizTools. Welcome to this webinar on ESS Bizgrants. We'll just give a minute or so for some other people to attend who aren't here at present. Hope you've had a good Anzac Day yesterday, and that your day is going fine for you so far. We'll get started because everyone's time's valuable, so, and most importantly yours, for registering. So we're going to look at ESS Bizgrants. What we'll do is look at Bizgrants and tell you how it is prepared, how it works, and we'll show you the report that the system produces and the uses you might be able to make of the reports that are prepared. We set out to write this product on ESS Bizgrants following a discussion I had about 6 years ago with David Smith from Smith Inc. 2020. David had been undertaking a series of interviews with small business operators and asked them questions about services provided by their accountants. And one of the frequent responses that he was receiving was criticism by small medium enterprise operators about their accountants not informing them about government grants, not keeping them informed. Obviously, when David talked to accountants, many of them said, well, we don't think it's part of our service, and we don't really know how to go about supplying that sort of service. David and I were having a discussion because at that stage my consultancy business was handling a consultancy assignment from the federal government that was for the COMET program, Commercialising Emerging Technology, and I'd struck various problems around Australia whereby there had been some misunderstanding between inventors, entrepreneurs and their accountants as to, in particular, how the research and development rules worked. I had people who were in sole trading situations, partnerships or trusts, all thinking that they were going to receive accelerated income tax deductions, which obviously they weren't because they weren't in companies. So it was from that basis that we decided to develop this material, which was to be designed on the basis of you would insert your details on the client and the system would then identify a list of grants that could apply to that particular client. So that's how we've gone about this, and hopefully it will give you the information that you are looking for. So when you first go onto our website, you will find that there is a client profile sample. There's 8 of those. They're being prepared for different types of businesses and different locations around Australia, so as to give you the information that you might be able to table with your client by being able to be very proactive in bringing to the client's attention that a particular grant or grants may exist which could be of benefit to them. So we're going to go and do a website tour in a moment and look at the system. So it's a quick and easy solution to finding government grants for individual small medium enterprises. It's not a matter of you inserting details into a computer system of the client and having someone else telling you what the grants are. The accountant is in control of this process. You don't need to refer it to anyone else unless you elect to do so. It's obviously been developed by ESS BizTools. We've been supplying services to accountancy industries in Australia for the last 10 years. There are hundreds of subscribers to ESS BizTools all around Australia. And the software development has been done by Real Advantage Solutions, Tim Donovan, who has really brought real-world knowledge to how this has all been put together. I think what we might do is go onto the website. We've got plenty of questions here in the templates, but we'll go to the website so I can show you how the system operates. When you first go to our site, it might be an idea to view the testimonial that David Smith has given ESS Bizgrants. You'll note that he's saying that ESS Bizgrants should reside in every accountant's office because few accountants are aware of the grants available to their clients. It is a minefield, and it does change, not about daily, but every month there are changes. So we've tried to do the hard work and assisting you to see how it works. There are some examples on how it works whereby you can identify individual case studies to have a look at if you wish. But what we're going to do now is go into the system and log in. So this is all the free material that we're currently in. We then go into the site proper. I've already logged in, so which you normally would have to log in. Your subscription gives you 24/7 access for 12 months for an office. You can have as many authors as you like making inquiries of Bizgrants. So there's some basic details included there of some of the information that we're going to need to input. Type of business, type of industry is very important because the vast majority of these government grants are linked to either a business or an industry. So that data's there, you can read that. Where the system starts is in client profiles. Pardon me, I'm going to show you a new client profile. So provision's been made there for you to insert the name of the client or a registration number. Please be aware that we are using cloud technology, so some of our subscribers are inserting a reference number for their client. You need to select the structure that the client is using. There's no doubt that as far as government bureaucrats are concerned, in framing government grants, the most popular entity is a company, but other entities can be eligible for some of the grants. So you go through and select which particular entity might suit you. So you just click on it and then it becomes the applicable entity for that client. Then there are some basic questions. Now in the basic question area there are 20 questions. When we analysed a couple of hundred government grants we had over 800 questions, so it was not possible to include all those questions at the very beginning. So what we've tried to do is to have an initial lot of questions which will allow the system to perform an initial search to identify the grants that might be appropriate for that client, and then to enable you to go further in answering some of the additional questions. So the questions are built around: do you export, do you import, how many employees, do you have an ABN, how many years have you been operating, because it's very important for some grants, particularly the Enterprise Connect grants, which require the business to have been operating for 3 years. What's the turnover? Many of the grants have got turnover requirements. You're probably very familiar with research and development, which obviously has got a $20 million differentiation as to the type of benefit that a company can obtain. But there's turnover requirements, both minimum and maximum, for a wide range of other grants. Enterprise Connect all has minimum turnovers. Maximum is 100 million for each industry classification, but the minimums vary. Commercialisation Australia, another very big grant for small, medium enterprises and startups, has got 3 of its programs turnovers under 10 million, so there's no minimum, so a business can have no turnover and yet be successful in an application for Commercialisation Australia. And the maximum turnover in their major grant program of early stage commercialisation can be up to $50 million. That's starting to get to be a fairly big small business. Are you registered for GST? Are you tax exempt? Now, the ESS Bizgrants product has been prepared for small, medium enterprises. It's not prepared for not-for-profits and charities. Therefore, to be successful, at the very minimum, a business will need an ABN and it will need to be GST registered, and it needs to be a tax-paying entity. Are you involved in research and development? We're using that to not only link to the R&D rebate program, but also to link to the Commercialisation Australia programs and various other state government grants that are prepared on the basis that the applicant has been undertaking research and development. Financial vulnerability is a question that gets asked in the vast majority of government grants, but the question is being asked from a government employee's point of view, and to answer it yes, it should be on the basis that the liquidators are about to be appointed or the receivers are walking up the footpath. It's not because there's some concern about, that the debtor's days outstanding is too high and there needs to be strategies undertaken to improve it. If you answer yes to that question, there will be no government grants shown to you for that client, because the bureaucracy would rule the business out if there was concerns about its financial vulnerability. Now, we can't go any further unless we've inserted actual data. So I'm going to take you back and use data which were previously inputted, and you see we've got a whole stack of these, but we're just going down to a company who we've been working on for the last week or so as the example. So this is a company we've called Western Manufacturing Proprietary Limited. It's based in our theoretical model in Blacktown in Sydney, or part of the Sydney metropolitan area. So we've inserted the name of the company already, Western Manufacturing. It is a company. They do export, they do import. They've got 15 employees. They have an ABN. They've been operating for 8 years. They've got turnover of 6.2 million. They're registered for GST, etc. So we'll save all that. And then we go to these additional questions. We need to answer what type of business they're in. And these are the business questions that originate from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. So we need to answer whether they are one of these categories of business. We've already answered in this one that it's a manufacturer. And we then need to identify which industry that the small medium enterprise belongs to. There's 17 of those industry classifications according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. If you don't know which one your client might relate to, you could go on to the link that takes to the Australian Bureau of Statistics onto their website, whereby you can find the classification for a particular business. To identify which number might apply. So if we were looking at printing for argument's sake, if we entered into printing, it would then be setting out the various types of components of printing activities that might relate to that particular number, 1611. We are producing the second version of ESS Bizgrants in about 3 to 4 weeks' time, and we are going to ask you to insert the actual Australian New Zealand industrial classification number into the system. We are utilising the information available from the tax office, whereby they have gone through and expanded in some cases the information from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. That will be available as a drop-down box. If you don't know the ANZIC number, if you're your client, you'll be able to go to the drop-down box and just click on to the industry description or name that best describes what your client's doing. We are working now on allocating ANZIC codes to every one of the grants that's within our system, so that we are hoping there will be a closer matching of an applicant with a particular industry code. But we've already done this here. We've gone through and allocated it's a manufacturing industry. So if we hit search now, so that's the initial questions. What the system is now going to give us, and we have been working on this one prior to commencing this webinar, we're going through the pending grants. So there's a number of apprenticeship grants in the Australian system, and we've already selected one of those this morning. So we're going through and looking for grants that you think might suit this particular client. Now, to give you an example of how something works, we might go to the early stage commercialisation grant. Now, this is a rather large grant, as you'll see. There's the grant details. So obviously for each of the few hundred grants that are in the system, the grant details are shown on an individual basis. You can then look at the funding details. You can get up to $2 million on a 50% basis from the early stage commercialisation grant. You can read more information about how this grant operates by looking at the eligibility checklist. There's an eligibility checklist you can use. Now, this grant takes companies with turnovers up to $50 million. They must have developed a project, and that normally means that they would have been undertaking research and development. You might decide that you want to know a bit more about the that grant, so we could look at the paper we've prepared. This is an ESS BizTools paper. This is a rather detailed document, not as detailed as what the government website's got though. We've tried to streamline it and supply information. We've got links to the other grants within Commercialisation Australia. Goes through and explains how this grant works. I think you'd agree that it's a fairly complicated process to get a grant, but after all, the maximum is $2 million. It's a fair bit of taxpayers' money. You'd expect the bureaucracy to put up some barriers around that, but there's been quite a number of businesses, start-up type businesses, a bit further advanced, who have been able to secure this grant. So there's full details of it there if you need to read it. Then we have to ask some additional questions, and there's a few of them in this one. Some grants is only 1 or 2 questions, some others is a bit more. So these are the additional questions. So is the company seeking support for systematic work necessary for installing and establishing process systems and services? And the keywords are that enable a new product, process or service to be produced to the stage where it can be effectively brought to market. And the answer is yes. That's what we're hoping to be able to do, or we know that your client's going to do. Is the early stage commercialisation project going to cost a minimum $100,000? Well, that's important because the minimum grant's $50,000 to $2 million. Are you able to supply an accountant's written opinion that the applicant meets the funding conditions and has the ability to fund the applicant's share of the costs? Well, if you're filling this in, presumably you're able to do that for the client, and in the paper there's details of what that written opinion's all about, but it is required for this particular grant. Has the company or group turnover been less than $50 million for the last 3 years? We'll say yes, that's right. Does the business have ownership or beneficial use of intellectual property needed for this commercialisation project? So we'll say yes. You need to be able to answer yes to the following. Do you need the funding? These grants are a bit funny. You've got to prove that you need the funding and also prove that you can pay your share of the 50%. Have you got market opportunity? Has the business got the management capabilities to handle a project that could be anywhere between $100,000 and $4 million? And is there some national benefits? We'll say yes to all that. Can the business fund from its own resources at least 50% of the project cost? We'll say yes. Does the applicant comply with its obligations and equal opportunity for women in the workplace? And we'll say yes. Now what the system's done there, you didn't quite see it, but it's changed that status up there to now being eligible, and it's added a new box called Apply Now. Now if we clicked on Apply Now, it's now giving us the URL, but if we clicked on that, it would take us to the Commercialisation Australia website where you could complete the application form. But we don't want to do that, it does take a little while, so we go back, click back to results, and then within potentially eligible, we now have a list of grants. There's the early stage commercialisation grant there. Now these other ones that are already in here, in previous webinars we've been installing them. So there are a range of grants that we're saying theoretically this company couldn't apply for. Let me pick one now that we're saying for some reason or other they might not be eligible to apply for. So we'll go to this continuous, we were on manufacturing, we go to the continuous improvement program. Now this is a program that's only available for people who have completed stage 1 reviews under Enterprise Connect. They can get funding of up to $20,000. In the toolkit you can read all about it. We'll go to additional criteria. Has the company completed stage 1 of the Enterprise Connect for manufacturing? So up here it's saying pending confirmation. We say no, we haven't done that, so we answer no. What the system's done now is said you'd be ineligible because you need to have undertaken stage 1 before you can apply for the continuous improvement program. And if we now went back to results and within ineligible, we will have the continuous improvement programs manufacturing centres listed. To see the report that would be prepared, we go back to potentially eligible. This is really what we're after. These other items which are called pending and potentially ineligible can stay in the system. Perhaps there's new data that you put in next year which might mean that they could be eligible. You would then be able to produce a report which you can submit to your client. It has the client's name and would then have the name of the subscriber. So whatever your business name is, that's what name would appear there. It doesn't come up as ESS Biz Tools. Only doing that because this is our demo version. And what we've done here, obviously, we just went and had a look at one of the grants, but we've already looked at 9 others, so it's saying 10 grants are potentially eligible here. It gives you a report that you can give to the client. You could attach to it the copy of the information, the checklist or the paper that you have obtained from the grant toolkit. It gives a synopsis of what the grant's all about and also encloses details of the funding that's available, both for Tailored Assistance Program and Researchers in Business, and then it goes on for the other grants. There is a disclaimer at the bottom of each page which basically says that whilst all care has been taken, that it's only the government departments that are going to be able to access whether an applicant is going to be approved. There could be 101 other reasons why a government department might not approve a particular application. A person may have been involved in other government programs unbeknownst to you, and maybe in the black book because they haven't complied with the rules properly, or the government may have allocated all the money that's available under that grant, all sorts of reasons. So that's the grant report program that's available, and that's basically how this grant operates. Now, I'm just going to open up let's have a go at this and see how much interference we've got. If you're able to talk to me, I've now opened up the communication channel. What I meant to say at the beginning, if you had any questions, you could raise your hand in the webinar contacts and type in the question. But I now have opened up the communication channel. If you have any questions that you wish to ask me, I will try to answer them. If you can't think of them now and you think of them later on, you can send us an email at peter@essbiztools.com.au, or you could make a telephone call to us at 074724 1118. The subscription to ESS Bizgrants is $450 plus GST, so $495 for the first 12 months subscription. It gives you 24/7 access per firm for 12 months to utilise ESS Bizgrants. Well, thank you very much for participating in this webinar this afternoon. I hope you have a good weekend. If you do think of any questions, please contact us. We really would welcome you as a subscriber to ESS Bizgrants. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.